The rain started exactly when the ceremony was supposed to begin. Not a gentle drizzle, but a torrential downpour that hammered against the white tent and turned the manicured garden into a sea of mud. And I was sitting outside the tent, on a folding chair, in a cotton dress, while 300 guests celebrated my sister's perfect wedding in climate-controlled comfort 20 feet away. "You understand, right, Natalie?" my mother had said an hour earlier, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "The photographer needs the aesthetic to be perfect, and with your situation, it's just better if you sit outside during the ceremony. You can come in for dinner. Maybe." My situation. That's what they called my husband. My wonderful, kind, hard-working husband who they thought was beneath us because he was a farmer. A simple man with dirt under his fingernails and calluses on his hands. Not good enough for their aesthetic. Not good enough for their high society wedding. Not good enough for their family. If only they knew. I'm Natalie Morrison, and this is the story of how my sister's perfect wedding became the worst day of her life, and how my poor husband became the most powerful man in the room. Let me back up. I've been the family disappointment for as long as I can remember. My younger sister, Veronica, was born golden, literally. Blonde hair, blue eyes, perfect features that photograph like a dream. She was the child my parents had always wanted. I was just there. Veronica got piano lessons, ballet classes, private tutors. I got hand-me-downs and lectures about being more like my sister. Veronica went to an elite private high school. I went to public school. Veronica got a brand new BMW for her 16th birthday. I got a lecture about fiscal responsibility when I asked for help buying a used Honda. But I didn't complain. I worked. I put myself through state college with scholarships and 3 part-time jobs. I graduated with honors in business administration. I got a good job at a tech startup. I built a life for myself without any help from my parents or their money. And then I met Thomas. Thomas Green, the love of my life. I met him at a farmer's market on a Saturday morning. He was selling organic vegetables, his hands dirty from harvest, his smile genuine and warm. We talked for an hour about sustainable farming and crop rotation, and I fell in love with his passion, his intelligence, his kindness. We dated for 2 years. He was everything I'd ever wanted. Honest, hardworking, caring. He treated me like I mattered, like I was valuable, like I was enough. When I brought him home to meet my parents, I thought they'd see what I saw. Instead, they saw dirt under his fingernails. "A farmer?" my mother said, her voice sharp with disgust. "Surely, Natalie, you can do better than this." "He makes me happy," I said. "Happiness doesn't pay for country club memberships," my father replied. "What does this man make annually?" "That's not important," I said. "Everything is important when you're considering marriage to someone so beneath you." They never gave Thomas a chance. They called him the farmer, like it was an insult. They made jokes about him smelling like manure. They excluded him from family events because he wouldn't fit in. When Thomas and I got engaged, my parents didn't even pretend to be happy. Don't expect us to pay for this wedding. We're saving our money for Veronica's wedding when she marries someone appropriate. We got married at a small ceremony with our friends. My parents didn't attend. Veronica sent a card that said, "Good luck, you'll need it." Thomas never complained, never said a bad word about my family. He just loved me, supported me, and built a good life with me. We lived modestly in a farmhouse on his property. I kept my tech job, he ran his farm. We were happy. But my parents never stopped treating him like he was nothing, like we were nothing, until Veronica got engaged to Preston Blackwell. Preston was everything my parents had ever dreamed of for their golden child. Old money, Yale graduate, vice president at Blackwell Holdings, one of the largest commercial real estate development companies in the Northeast. He was handsome, connected, and came from the right kind of family. The engagement announcement was in the New York Times. The wedding was planned for 18 months. The budget was $500,000, all paid for by my parents, who suddenly had plenty of money to spend on the child who'd married correctly. I was invited. Barely. The invitation came with a note. "You may attend, but please understand that Thomas is not welcome. This is a formal event and we need to maintain a certain standard." I almost didn't go. Thomas encouraged me to. "She's your sister," he said. "Maybe this is a chance to reconnect." "They don't want me there," I said. "Not really." "They invited you. That's something. Go. Be there for your sister's big day. I'll be fine." So I went, alone, to a wedding where I wasn't really wanted, to support a sister who'd never supported me. The wedding was at my parents' estate, a sprawling property in Connecticut with manicured gardens and a view of the Sound. They'd erected a massive white tent for 300 guests, crystal chandeliers, silk tablecloths, a string quartet. Everything was white and gold and absolutely perfect. I arrived in my best dress, a simple blue cocktail dress that I'd bought specifically for this event. My mother took one look at me and frowned. "That dress," she said, "it's not really appropriate." "What's wrong with it?" "It's blue. The wedding colors are white and gold. Didn't you read the invitation? We requested that guests wear white, gold, or champagne colors only." The invitation said formal attire. It didn't specify colors. "Everyone else understood," my mother said, gesturing to the arriving guests who were indeed all in various shades of white and gold. "But that's always been your problem, Natalie. You've never quite understood how to fit in." I should have left then, but I stayed because Thomas had encouraged me to give them a chance, because Veronica was my sister, even if she'd never treated me like one. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:45, my mother approached me with a pained expression. "Natalie, honey, we have a little situation." "What situation?" "The photographer is very particular about the aesthetic, and your dress, being blue, really stands out in all the wrong ways. It's going to ruin the photos." "So what do you want me to do?" "We were thinking maybe you could sit outside the tent during the ceremony, just for the photos. There's a chair set up with a nice view, you can still hear everything, and then you can come inside for the reception." I stared at her. "You want me to sit outside your daughter's wedding because my dress is the wrong color?" "It's not about the color, sweetie. It's about the overall aesthetic. Veronica has worked so hard to make this perfect. Surely you don't want to ruin her big day." The guilt trip, the manipulation, the same tactics they'd used my entire life to make me feel like I was the problem, I was the inconvenience, I was the one who didn't belong. "Fine," I said. "I'll sit outside." My mother's relief was palpable. "Oh, thank you, Natalie. You're being so understanding. We really appreciate it." They set me up on a white folding chair about 30 feet from the tent entrance, close enough to technically be attending the wedding, far enough away to not be visible in any photos. And then the rain started. Not immediately. The ceremony started on time under beautiful sunny skies. I watched from my chair as Veronica walked down the aisle in a dress that cost more than my car, as Preston gazed at her with appropriate adoration, as my parents cried happy tears in the front row. Then, exactly as the officiant said, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," the sky opened up. It wasn't a summer shower, it was a deluge. The kind of rain that soaks you to the skin in seconds. The kind of rain that turns gardens into swamps and makes it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The guests under the tent gasped and laughed, safe and dry under white silk canopy. I sat in my folding chair and got absolutely drenched, my hair plastered to my face, my blue dress soaked through and clinging to me, rain running down my back, pooling in my shoes. I could have run to my car, should have, but something kept me in that chair. Stubbornness, maybe, or maybe just the final breaking point of 30 years of being treated like I didn't matter. The ceremony continued. Through the rain, through the thunder, the officiant's voice echoing from the speakers. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Cheering, applause, the sound of 300 people celebrating, while I sat in the rain like a punishment. The newlyweds came down the aisle, radiant and dry under the tent. Veronica saw me. For just a moment, our eyes met through the rain. I saw recognition. I saw something that might have been guilt. Then she laughed and turned away. The reception line formed inside the tent entrance. I stood up from my soaking chair, wrung out my dress as best I could, and walked towards the tent. Surely now I could come inside. The ceremony was over, the photos were done. I could dry off, maybe sit in a corner, maybe leave early. Veronica was at the entrance, greeting guests with her perfect smile. When she saw me approaching, soaking wet and shivering, her smile turned cold. Natalie, she said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, you look like a drowned rat. I was sitting where Mom told me to sit, I said quietly. It rained. And you just sat there? God, you're pathetic. She turned to Preston. Darling, isn't my sister just pathetic? Preston barely glanced at me. If you say so, dear. I'd like to come inside now, I said, to dry off. Inside? Veronica laughed. Looking like that? You'll ruin everything. You'll drip all over the floors. You smell like wet dog. Veronica, please. You know what your problem is, Natalie? She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt more cruel than her public mockery. You've never understood your place. You've always tried to be part of something you're not good enough for. This wedding, this life, this isn't for people like you and your pathetic farmer husband. A server passed by with a tray of champagne. Veronica grabbed 2 glasses. For a moment, I thought she was offering me one, a peace offering, a moment of sisterly kindness. Instead, she poured both glasses down the front of my dress. The champagne mixed with the rainwater running down my already soaked clothes. Guests nearby gasped. Some laughed. My mother, standing a few feet away, looked away like she hadn't seen anything. Oops, Veronica said with a smile. How clumsy of me. But honestly, Natalie, you're already wet. What's a little more? She leaned in close. You're dirt. You've always been dirt. And now everyone can see it. I stood there, champagne and rain dripping off me, and felt something inside me finally, definitively break. Not my spirit, my patience, my willingness to keep trying with people who would never see my worth. I'm leaving, I said quietly. Good. Don't let the tent flap hit you on the way out. I turned toward the parking area, and that's when I saw him. Thomas. He was walking across the lawn toward the tent, and he wasn't alone. 3 men in expensive suits flanked him, carrying tablets and leather folders. Thomas himself was dressed in a tailored, charcoal suit I'd never seen him wear, his normally casual demeanor replaced by something harder, more commanding. Behind them, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up, then another, then another. Thomas saw me standing there, soaking wet, champagne dripping off my dress, and his expression went from concerned to absolutely furious in the space of a heartbeat. Natalie, he said, reaching me in 3 long strides, what the hell happened? I was sitting outside during the ceremony. It rained. Then Veronica. I didn't need to finish. He could see the champagne, smell it. He could see the guests laughing. He could put together exactly what had happened. Get in the car, he said quietly. There's a blanket and dry clothes in the back. Wait for me there. Thomas, what are you doing here? I thought... Get in the car, sweetheart. Please. I need to handle something. I nodded and walked toward the Mercedes. As I did, I heard my mother's voice, shrill with panic. Thomas, what are you doing here? You weren't invited. I didn't hear Thomas's response. I was already at the car, climbing into the warm leather back seat, wrapping myself in the soft blanket that smelled like him. But I watched through the tinted windows as everything unfolded. Thomas walked into the tent like he owned it. The three suited men followed. Conversations stopped, people stared, Preston's face went white. "Oh my God," someone said. "That's Thomas Green." "Who?" another voice asked. "Thomas Green, CEO of Green Agricultural Holdings. Are you serious? You don't know who he is?" My brain stuttered. CEO? Thomas? My Thomas? I watched as one of the suited men approached Preston, who now looked like he might be sick. They talked for maybe 30 seconds. Preston's face went from white to gray to absolutely ashen. Then Thomas walked over to where my parents stood with Veronica. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw my mother's face crumple, saw my father reach for a chair to steady himself, saw Veronica's perfect smile freeze and shatter. One of the suited men approached the DJ booth and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. I'm David Chen, General Counsel for Green Agricultural Holdings. There's been an unfortunate situation that requires immediate attention. Preston Blackwell, I need you to come with me. Now." The entire tent went silent. Preston, shaking, walked over to the lawyer. They spoke in low tones. Preston's face went from ashen to red to purple. Then he turned and stared at me sitting in the car, at Thomas standing calmly in the center of the tent, at his entire wedding falling apart in real time. "You can't do this," Preston said loudly. "This is my wedding day. This is—" "You're fired, Mr. Blackwell," David Chen said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent tent. "Your employment with Blackwell Holdings is terminated, effective immediately. Green Agricultural Holdings owns 62% of Blackwell Holdings. I am here on behalf of the majority shareholder to inform you that your services are no longer required." The gasps that rippled through the crowd were audible even from inside the car. Thomas walked over to my parents. Again, I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw my father's face turn red, saw my mother start crying, not happy wedding tears, devastated ones. Then Thomas turned to the crowd and spoke, his voice carrying effortlessly. "Many of you know me, many of you don't. I'm Thomas Green. I run Green Agricultural Holdings. Some of you work for companies I own, some of you do business with companies I fund. And until today, I've been keeping my professional life separate from my personal life." He gestured toward the Mercedes where I sat. "That's my wife in that car, Natalie Green. For 3 years, she's been treated like garbage by her family. Today, at her own sister's wedding, she was forced to sit in the rain because her dress wasn't the right color. She was mocked, humiliated, and had champagne poured on her by the bride." Veronica made a sound like a wounded animal. "I came here today," Thomas continued, "to try one last time to make peace with my wife's family, to be the bigger person, to prove to them that success isn't measured by old money or country club memberships, but by character and hard work." He looked directly at Veronica. "But what I found was a bride who called my wife dirt, a groom who works for a company I control and didn't recognize his own CEO's wife, and parents who threw away a brilliant, kind, hard-working daughter because she didn't fit their aesthetic." My mother tried to speak. "Thomas, please, we didn't know." "You didn't know because you never asked. You never cared. You saw a farmer and decided I wasn't worth your time. You have no idea who I am, what I've built, what I'm capable of." One of the suited men handed Thomas a folder. Thomas opened it and read from official-looking documents. "Green Agricultural Holdings controls 42% of the organic produce supply in the Northeast. We own 17 major distribution companies. We're the primary supplier for 68% of the high-end restaurants and markets you all frequent. We do business with most of the companies represented at this wedding." He looked at my father. including Morrison Development, which just applied for a $12 million loan to refinance their commercial properties. That loan application will be denied Monday morning. Consider it my wedding gift. My father made a choking sound. Thomas turned to Preston. Blackwell Holdings has been bleeding money for 3 years. Your father came to me 6 months ago begging for investment capital. I gave it to him on the condition that he clean house of incompetent management. You were at the top of that list. I've been patient, but after today, after seeing how you treat people you think are beneath you, I'm done being patient. Veronica grabbed Preston's arm. This can't be happening. Tell him he can't do this. He owns the company, Preston said, his voice hollow. He can do whatever he wants. Thomas looked at my mother. Mrs. Morrison, I understand you're very proud of your daughter's marriage to Preston. Old money, good family, right connections. Unfortunately, Preston is now unemployed, about to be blacklisted from every major firm in the region, and his trust fund is controlled by his father, who will not be happy about this situation. My mother swayed. My father caught her. So here's how this is going to work, Thomas said to the stunned crowd. This wedding is over. Everyone can leave. The food and music have been paid for, so feel free to take some cake on your way out. Consider it my treat. He walked toward the Mercedes, but stopped at the entrance and turned back. One more thing. Natalie has never asked me for anything, never used my money or influence. She worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. She built her own career. She's been the only one in her family with real integrity and character. And you threw her away like she was nothing. His voice got quieter, which somehow made it more terrifying. She sat in the rain today because you told her she didn't fit your aesthetic. But she's the only one of you worth knowing, the only one of you who actually matters. And you'll spend the rest of your lives regretting that you were too shallow and selfish to see it. He walked to the car and got in beside me. I was shaking, not from cold, but from shock. Thomas, what just happened? Justice, he said simply. He wrapped his arms around me and held me as the tent behind us emptied, guests fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. Long overdue justice. You're the CEO of Green Agricultural Holdings? I am. How did I not know this? Because I didn't want you to know. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I'm worth. And you did. You loved me when I was just a farmer with dirt under his nails. That's how I knew you were real. My family. Your family just learned an expensive lesson about judging people by their appearance. Through the car window, I watched my parents standing alone in the rain. The tent was almost empty now. Veronica was crying, mascara running down her face. Preston was on his phone, probably calling his father. The perfect wedding had imploded in less than 15 minutes. They'll never forgive me. Do you care? I thought about it. About 30 years of being second choice, of being the disappointment, of sitting in the rain while everyone else stayed dry, of being called dirt by my own sister. No, I really don't. Thomas smiled. Good, because we have a plane to catch. A plane? I was supposed to be in Tokyo tomorrow for a board meeting. I postponed it because I knew you needed backup today. But we can still make the evening flight if we leave now. Have you ever been to Japan? No. Then let's go. We'll get you dry clothes, a hot bath, and then we'll fly first class to Tokyo. We'll eat in a suite at the peninsula. We'll eat at the best restaurants. We'll do everything your family thinks they're too good for, and we'll do it because we can, because we earned it, because we're worth it. I started laughing, then crying, then laughing again. What about my car? I'll have someone pick it up. What about your family? I looked back at the tent one more time, at the ruins of the perfect wedding, at the golden child who'd finally pushed too far, at parents who'd chosen status over substance and lost both. They made their choice, I said. I'm making mine. Thomas kissed my forehead. That's my girl. The driver pulled away from the estate. As we drove through the gates, my phone started ringing. My mother, then my father, then Veronica. I turned it off. Will they recover? I asked Thomas. Eventually. Your father's company will survive once he refinances elsewhere, though it'll be expensive. Preston will find another job, probably at a lower level. Veronica will have to adjust to being married to someone who's not a VP anymore. And the wedding? Officially the most dramatic wedding collapse in Connecticut history. People will be talking about it for years. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? Thomas was quiet for a moment. My father built Green Agricultural Holdings from nothing. He was a farmer who saw opportunity in organic produce before anyone else. They made their choice, I said. I'm making mine. Thomas kissed my forehead. That's my girl. The driver pulled away from the estate. As we drove through the gates, my phone started ringing. My mother, then my father, then Veronica. I turned it off. Will they recover? I asked Thomas. Eventually. Your father's company will survive once he refinances elsewhere, though it'll be expensive. Preston will find another job, probably at a lower level. Veronica will have to adjust to being married to someone who's not a VP anymore. And the wedding? Officially the most dramatic wedding collapse in Connecticut history. People will be talking about it for years. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? Thomas was quiet for a moment. My father built Green Agricultural Holdings from nothing. He was a farmer who saw opportunity in organic produce before anyone else. He died when I was 25 and left me a company worth $200 million. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be my friend. Everyone wanted to date me. Everyone saw dollar signs instead of a person. So you pretended to be just a farmer? I am a farmer. That's not pretending. The business side is just logistics. But when I met you at that farmer's market, you saw me. Not my money, not my company, just me. And you fell in love with the farmer, not the CEO. That meant everything. So you let my family humiliate you for 3 years just to prove a point? I let your family reveal exactly who they were, so that when the time came, you'd have no doubts about walking away. I thought about that. About Thomas enduring their mockery, their condescension, their cruelty, all while having the power to destroy them any time he chose, all while waiting for me to be ready. You could have told them years ago, could have made them respect you. I didn't need their respect. I needed you to see that you deserved better. And today, sitting in that rain, you finally saw it. He was right. Something had broken in me today, but not my spirit. My attachment to people who would never value me. My hope that family meant something more than aesthetic and status. I'm done with them, I said. I know. I mean, really done. No more trying, no more hoping they'll change. Good. Thank you, I said, for coming, for standing up for me, for everything. Natalie, I would burn down the world for you. Today, I just burned down one wedding. We drove to the airport in comfortable silence. Behind us, my sister's perfect day lay in ruins. Ahead of us, Tokyo awaited, and a life that was finally, completely our own. My phone buzzed one more time, a voicemail from my mother. I listened to it. Natalie, please, you have to talk to Thomas. You have to make him understand. This is ruining everything. Your father's business, Preston's career, Veronica's reputation. Please, your family. Family helps each other. I deleted it without responding. Family helps each other. They were right about that. But I'd already found my family, my real family. A man who loved me when I had nothing to offer but myself. A man who sat in farmers markets selling vegetables while running a billion-dollar company. A man who endured mockery and disrespect because he knew eventually justice would come. And it did come. at a perfect wedding on a rainy afternoon in front of 300 witnesses. My name is Natalie Green. My family forced me to sit in the rain at my sister's wedding because I didn't fit their aesthetic. My sister poured champagne on me and called me dirt. My parents stood by and let it happen. And my poor farmer husband revealed himself as a CEO, fired the groom at the altar, destroyed their financial security, and flew me to Tokyo first class. People ask me if I feel guilty, if I regret what happened to Veronica's wedding, to Preston's career, to my parents' business. I don't. Not even a little. Because for 30 years, they had every opportunity to treat me with basic human decency, every opportunity to see my worth, every opportunity to accept that success comes in many forms, and love matters more than status. They chose cruelty over kindness, appearance over substance, status over family.
And when my husband finally revealed who he really was, he didn't destroy them. He just stopped protecting them, stopped quietly funding their lifestyle through his business connections, stopped being patient with their disrespect. The rest? That was just consequences. Veronica's marriage lasted 14 months. Turns out when your husband loses his high-powered job and trust fund and you're married to him for status instead of love, there's not much left to build on. Preston eventually found work at a smaller firm, making a fraction of what he made before. His father never forgave him for losing the Green Agricultural Holdings investment. My parents downsized, sold the estate, moved to a smaller house in a less prestigious neighborhood. They're not destitute, but they're no longer country club wealthy. They're just comfortable, like most people. And me? I'm thriving. Thomas and I travel the world. I consult for his company now, using my business degree to actually make a difference. We split our time between the farmhouse I love and a penthouse in Manhattan. We have everything we need and most of what we want. My parents tried to reconnect after about a year, a carefully worded letter about misunderstandings and family bonds. I didn't respond. Veronica tried too. An email saying she'd been under stress, that she didn't mean what she said, that she missed her sister. I wrote back one sentence. You called me dirt and poured champagne on me at your wedding. There's no coming back from that. She didn't reply. The wedding video went viral, by the way. Someone leaked footage of Thomas's speech, Preston's firing, and Veronica's collapse. It's been viewed millions of times under various titles. Groom fired at wedding by boss he didn't recognize, secret CEO crashes sister-in-law's wedding, most dramatic wedding revenge ever. We didn't leak it, but we didn't stop it either. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate plots or personal vendettas. Sometimes it's just letting the truth come out, letting people see exactly who the villains are, and walking away to build something better. If you're the scapegoat in your family, hear this. You're not the problem. You never were. And the day you walk away from people who can't see your worth is the day your real life begins. Mine began in the rain, soaking wet, covered in champagne, at my sister's ruined wedding. Best day of my life.